When I broke off my engagement with Ji Hansheng, a poor man, I said all kinds of ugly things that made him hate me. For years later, he turned around and became the favored minister of the new emperor. And my father and brother fell and became a bereaved dog, and was humiliated and vented by his uncle. On the 30th day of being snubbed by him under house arrest, I was ready to commit suicide. But many words suddenly appeared in front of me. The villain is falling. Finally, the power was in the whole forcibly robbery, but Bai Yueguang would rather die than be with him. No wonder he was so crazy in the later stage. Still pretending to be cold, when you see Bai Yueguang's corpse, you will be honest, the whole world is looking for a great god to seduce souls, and you have to sleep with other people's corpses at night. Why can't Bai Yueguang think about it? Even if the villain was poor and broke off the engagement, how could she not want it if she was powerful, so she had to die? Maybe I'm afraid that the villain will retaliate against her. That's right. I clenched the porcelain piece in my hand, my eyes full of confusion. Ji Hansheng loves me but can't get it. Fake. 1. I have been in Ji Hansheng's mansion for a month. This month, I haven't been able to go out of the house, and I haven't had a word with Ji Hansheng. Occasionally meeting each other in the promenade or garden from a distance, Ji Hansheng also left in a hurry, not even looking at me. Although Ji Hansheng did not restrict my movements, he also regarded me as dispensable. I was like an ornament that was sent over, entered the house, placed it, and no one paid attention to it. The top of his head is like a sharp sword that will fall at any time. Now is not what it used to be. The new emperor ascended the throne, and Ji Han's voice was reused. And I am no longer the golden branch and jade leaf that was held in the palm of my father and brother at the beginning. Ji Hansheng's methods are ruthless, and his reputation for cold-blooded murderess is spread throughout Beijing. Otherwise, my uncle would not have been afraid that my divorce would implicate the entire Song family, so he hurriedly sent me over. Ji Hansheng left me, but left me in the backyard without saying a word. The more he was like this, the more flustered I became. He must be brewing some way to torture me. Today's Ji Hansheng is in charge of the imperial prison, and I heard that there are thousands of methods of torturing people in it alone. Thinking of the current situation, my father and brother were exiled, my uncle was betrayed, and I was about to face Ji Hansheng's torture. Will he cut off my hands and feet? Cut off my tongue? Or sell me to a brothel? I couldn't sleep all night in fright, and I was black and blue at my eyes, and I finally made up my mind. Instead of waiting for Ji Hansheng to take revenge on me and torture me to death, it is better to have the final say in life and death. Trembling, he smashed the teacup and pinched a piece. Just as he was about to cut his neck decisively, these words suddenly popped up in front of his eyes. They said that Ji Hansheng had feelings for me, and would go crazy after I died. Is this possible? In that divorce 4 years ago, Ji Hansheng and I had a particularly ugly quarrel. I was arrogant and directly smashed my father's betrothal token in his face. Ji Han didn't say a word, only tightened his jaw, his eyes were slightly red, and he looked like he was extremely forbearant and hateful. At that time, I was the daughter of a famous Shangshu in the capital, and he was a poor man in the middle of the family. No one thinks there's anything wrong with me doing this. Now his status has been upside down, he is high, and I have become a bereaved dog. Everyone thought that once Ji Hansheng turned over, he would definitely take revenge on me, a woman with eyes and no beads. Even I feel the same way. After hesitating for a while, the barrage in front of him rolled again. Revenge? It is possible that the villain may indeed take revenge on her, but in bed. At most it may just not be coaxed and not stopped. Don't look at him holding back for a month. In fact, he was waiting for Bai Yueguang to find him, thinking about who could calm down, but he was brewing and going offline. Can Bai Yueguang not die? Can you take care of this villain alive? What happened to our male and female protagonists being tortured by the villain in the later stage, and they were also whispering. I don't want to die either. If it weren't for the fear of being tortured, who would want to die? I slowly put down the porcelain piece against my neck. What's going on? It seems that he is really not dead. The next moment, the sound of the door being pushed open sounded. Girl. The maid who was serving came in, looked at the ground, and then looked at the porcelain piece in my hand, screaming loudly. Come on. The girl wants to commit suicide. As he spoke, he ran outside. No, I changed my mind. Good death, his hand slipped suddenly, and the porcelain piece made a hole in the palm of his hand, and blood flowed for a while. 2. Suicide. Ji Hansheng stood outside the screen with cold eyebrows, listening to the reports of his servants. How do you look at people? He had just returned from duty, and the red official robe on his body had not yet faded, and his gorgeous eyebrows and eyes were gloomy and indifferent, intimidating. Go down and get punished. Taking back the doctor's bandaged hand, I plucked up the courage to explain. I didn't want to commit suicide, I just broke the teacup and accidentally scratched it. Ji Hansheng didn't raise his eyes. If you don't take good care of it, you should still be punished. Brother was in a hurry, and after getting the news, he rolled and crawled back and stumbled up the steps. The villain modeling is full, and the economy is also beaten. Why does Bai Yueguang just don't like it? The mouth is too hard. If you talk to Bai Yueguang well, maybe it will be, you have to hang people there, and in the end both sides will lose. My eyes fell on Ji Hansheng's knees. The robe there did have a light gray. Look up at his expression again. His thin lips were pursed tightly and his jaw was tense, all of which exposed his nervousness at the moment. Could it be true that those words are true? I couldn't tell what emotions it was, so I brewed it and slowly spoke. It's just an accident, I'm fine, you don't have to worry about. Worried? Ji Hansheng interrupted me and slowly paced forward, looking condescending. I think too much, it's just that the new house is auspicious, and I don't want anyone to die at home. He tugged at the corners of his mouth sarcastically. Besides, what if you die in the house and corrupt my official reputation? My throat froze, and when the words came to my lips, I swallowed them. Just say that those words are deceptive. Ji Hansheng was like this, clearly wanting to smash me to pieces. How can you have feelings for me? Laugh me to death, he still has an official voice. Dress, load, don't you want your wife? In the future, the widower will shed tears and you will bear it. For a moment when his eyes were lowered, Ji Hansheng opened his mouth coldly. From now on, you move to my yard, so that you don't make any more trouble. In a piece of yo, my eyelashes trembled slightly. Isn't this appropriate? Live in his yard. Isn't that just a wall away from him? Lonely men and women. Don't forget, you have already been given to me by Master Song. Ji Hansheng went one step further and completely shrouded me in his shadow. His eyes narrowed slightly. You'd better listen to me obediently, otherwise I can't guarantee that I will do anything to you. 3. I was placed in Ji Hansheng's yard like this. Rao said several times that I didn't want to commit suicide, but Ji Hansheng still didn't believe it. All the sharp things in the house were put away, and there were even guards outside every day. I also figured out the situation of those words. It turns out that the world I live in is a storybook. Those words are the spectators of this script. In the script, Ji Hansheng is a traitor and villain who will do all kinds of evil in the future, controlling the government, causing trouble in all directions, and even disassembling the male and female protagonists, so that the whole script has reached a tragic ending. Ji Hansheng's family has fallen into decline, and he has been looked down upon since he was a child, so he can only study diligently. However, he offended the powerful, and his hand was broken before the scientific expedition, and even his fiancée, who had been engaged since childhood, broke off his engagement with him and voted for someone else. He was completely blackened, and he was bound to stand at the highest point in the world and trample everyone under his feet. Ji Hansheng did it. There was no hope of scientific research, so he defected to the fifth prince as a strategist, working hard to help him stand out among the princes. In the end, before his death, the late emperor passed the throne to the fifth prince. The bet was successful, and Ji Hansheng jumped to the top and became an existence that everyone could not afford to offend. And he still misses his fiancée who broke off his engagement at the beginning. That is, me. I didn't believe it originally. But now, Ji Hanxing's posture makes me have to believe it. Since moving into his yard, he would come over to take a look every day and stare at the doctor to change my dressing. I looked up at him, but he didn't say anything and left without saying a word. Encouraged by those words, when he came over again, I was the first to speak. Master Ji, I have something to say to you. Ji Hanxing coldly retreated left and right, and stepped in front of me. What's the matter? I asked. Can you let the guards step back? Don't think about it. His words suddenly stopped because he sensed movement in his hands. Looking down, snow-white fingers stretched out from his wide sleeves and pinched his knuckles. He also shook gently. Please. He lowered his eyes and looked puzzled, but he didn't seem to be angry. I then tentatively said, I won't be unable to think about it anymore. My injuries are almost healed, and it's really uncomfortable to be stuffy in the house all day. What does your discomfort have to do with me? Ji Hanxing lifted his phoenix eyes and suddenly withdrew his hand. Song Ya Wang, set your position clearly. Who allowed you to talk to me like that? My fingertips were empty, and I was slightly stunned. This is a bit familiar. 5 years ago, Ji Hanxing went to Beijing to take the exam, came to the door with the token of the year, and proposed to borrow it. He was shy in his pocket at the time, and the offended powerful people prevented him from settling in the city, so he had no other choice, so he came to the Song family for help. It was then that I learned that I still had a fiancé who was in the middle of the family. Rao as Ji Hanxing only proposed to come to borrow the house, and did not mention the marriage contract, but my father took the initiative to mention it because of his appreciation for him. I just thought he was hypocritical. Facing me, he kept saying that he didn't dare to climb high, but he still climbed the door of my Song family and ruined my reputation. The ladies I was friends with at that time all laughed at me for having a broken fiancé. Even the young master of the Pei family, whom I secretly admire, knew about this. I warned him, Ji Hanxing, you'd better put your position clearly, and don't let Miss Xiao think about it. When the scientific examination is over, get out of my house immediately. Yes, such humiliation, if it were me, I couldn't forgive it. Even if Ji Hanxing has feelings for me, then he will definitely torture me before he will be satisfied. Lowering my head, I retracted my hand. It's the common woman who has overstepped her bounds, and I dare not offend you like this anymore, and I hope you will forgive me. What if I don't forgive? I squeezed my sleeves tightly, my eyelashes trembling violently. A cold voice came from overhead. Since the injury is healed, I will come to my study tomorrow to serve. Lord Song sent you into the house, but he didn't let you come to eat. 4. Ji Hanxing was dealing with official business for an afternoon, and I was serving tea and pouring water and ink next to me, and serving the meal. After standing and grinding ink for an afternoon, my back hurts, my stomach is empty, and I have to endure the fragrance going straight into my nose. The meal was very sumptuous, but Ji Hanxing had no appetite and quickly stopped his chopsticks. Are you hungry? I nodded hesitantly. His tone was rarely gentle. Sit down. After sitting down according to the order, Ji Hanxing pushed the dishes and chopsticks in front of me, and his raised phoenix eyes were a little joking. Eat. Is this for me to use his dishes and chopsticks to eat his leftover food? What a dog, villain, deliberately want to kiss indirectly, right? I really want to beat him, no wonder I can't love him, and the crematorium is honest to chase my wife. I raised my eyes to look at him, and Ji Hanxing looked relaxed, as if he wanted to see how I reacted. If anyone dared to do this to me in the past, I was afraid that I would jump up and overturn the whole table. But now, I have long lost my qualifications to be willful. Obediently pinching his chopsticks, I honestly prepared to eat. Ji Hanxing was angry for some reason, and his face suddenly became cold. Song Ya Wang, when did you learn to be so obedient? You can do whatever you are asked to do. Do you want to warm the bed, and you won't complain at all? Warm bed. I frowned slightly. Please also respect yourself, Master G. Self-respect. My chin was pinched, and I looked at last season's cold voice. You were sent to my house by your uncle. What do you think you are here for? I didn't make a sound. In Ji Hanxing's opinion, it was a silent resistance. He sneered, what? Do you still want to protect Pei Wangzi like Jade? How is it so good? Mention Pei Wangzi. Jealousy is like jealousy, eating like jealousy, and hair is like madness. The next step is to kiss forcefully. The villain don't bear to kiss directly. Dear. I want to see it. Add 1. Seeing these words, I realized that he was jealous. Back then, I did fall in love with Pei Wangzi. After breaking off the marriage with Ji Hanxing, he also declared his marriage with Pei Wangzi. Opened my mouth and I explained, Pei Wangzi and I have nothing to do with each other for a long time. With a tight chin, Ji Hanxing's fingers pinched up, and he squinted at my expression. Leave the relationship. Why, are you afraid of what I will do to him? Does Ji Hanxing not understand people's words? I was really a little angry. The screen in front of him was upsetting, and Ji Hanxing's face was close at hand. My heart crossed. I held his face and kissed him. Dig it up, sister by Yue Guang is so brave. There was a warm touch on the lips, and the body of the subordinate became stiff in an instant, and his breathing instantly became rapid. The hot snort hit my face, and I pressed myself against him a little uncomfortable. I felt a little drummed in my heart. I'm so active, Ji Hanxing can't be duplicitous anymore. However, things backfired. Ji Hanxing pushed me away, and stood up suddenly. Do you think you can control me if you take the initiative to seduce? He was condescending, with a cold expression. Song Yaoguang, you think too highly of yourself. 5. That night, I was really called to warm up the bed. I made up my mind not to listen to those words anymore. Ji Hanxing loves whatever he wants, as long as he doesn't torture me, that's enough. Lying on Ji Hanxing's bed, wrapped in his breath, I was a little drowsy. Su knew that Ji Hanxing would not hurt me, so his vigilance gradually relaxed, and I fell asleep. Then I had a dream. I dreamed of 4 years ago, when Ji Hanxing was still living in my house. He wore the only good clothes that had been washed white all day long. His expression was neither humble nor arrogant, and he was unruly and arrogant. I hated him for pretending not to speak, and he disliked my pampering and self-righteousness. I didn't plan to marry him, and he probably didn't want to marry me. Look at each other and the two are tired of each other. The change was at an outing. At that time, I was in love with a beautiful young man like Pei Wangzi, and I was eager to get rid of the marriage contract with Ji Hanxing, so I took the initiative to dismiss my servants and express my feelings to Pei Wangzi. Pei Wangzi did not express his position, but only said, Miss Song should deal with the matter with young Master Ji first, and then say something else. This is rejection. Deflated, I wandered alone, but accidentally got lost in the mountains. It happened to be raining continuously, and I couldn't move my feet, and hid in the cracks of the stones to avoid the rain. I shivered until it was getting dark, and I heard someone call my name. It was Ji Hanxing's voice. When he saw me, he frowned, his face was very unhappy, and he looked reluctant to come to me. But he still checked my foot injury and carried me down the mountain. I put my arms around his neck, thinking that Ji Hanxing's back was so wide, and watching the water droplets slipping down the side of his face. To be fair, Ji Hanxing's appearance is excellent. The eyebrows and eyes are beautiful, and they have their own charm, but their charm is like a straight pine in Cyprus, cold and upright. I heard from my father that he was well educated, and if he could enter the palace examination, the emperor should give him the name of Tanhua. At that time, if he could learn to speak softly, this marriage would. It's not unacceptable. Later, unknowingly, he paid a little more attention to Ji Hanxing. Staring at his clean and white knuckles, stubborn and beautiful eyebrows, and wide and straight back. Over time, Pei Wangzi had long been forgotten by me about Java. When my father brought up the marriage again, I didn't jump to oppose it anymore. My father was a minister of the dynasty, and his eyes were like a torch, and he would not see the wrong person. Marrying Jihan's voice is actually not impossible. On the eve of the scientific expedition, I found Jihansheng. If my father hadn't been optimistic about you, someone like you would never have anything to do with me. You better go to high school, and Miss Ben may still consider this marriage, otherwise there will be no door. Afterward. Song Yaoguang. A familiar voice sounded, and I suddenly opened my eyes. Jihansheng stood on the edge of the bed, his tall figure covering the light and shadow of the candlelight. His voice couldn't distinguish between joy and anger. Let you warm the bed, who let you sleep? A dream reminded me of old things, and I was a little low and slowly got up. The folk girl retreated. Who asked you to go? Jihansheng's chin was slightly raised, and he gestured towards the couch in another place. Go there and stay on the vigil. Maybe I was too tired during the day, and after staying on the couch for a while, I fell asleep again. In a daze, it was raining outside, and I heard a burst of dripping rain. I curled up my body a little shrinkingly, and the next second, my body lightened, and Jihansheng carried me to the bed. It's too cold, come and warm up the bed. It was indeed cold. I followed the heat source, got into his arms, and closed my eyes again. 6-2. The wrist that was discounted 4 years ago hurts dull when it rains. Now, Jihansheng used this hand to hug Song Yaoguang, who broke off his engagement with him when he had no hope of taking the imperial examination after his hand was broken. Jihansheng stared at Song Yaoguang's sleeping face, as if he could stare at her through a hole. He always knew that Song Yaoguang looked down on him. Song Yaoguang frowned coldly at him, and he didn't expect to fulfill this marriage contract. But then she changed. At the outing, Jihansheng watched from a distance and heard Pei Wangza politely refusing Song Yaoguang. Later, she seemed to give up and turned her gaze to him. Either asked someone to make clothes for him, by the way, or asked someone to give him something, by the way. At that time, he had a good relationship with her brother, so she often came to him in the name of finding his brother. Jihansheng should have been disdainful. He was arrogant, and he witnessed her express his feelings to Pei Wangza, and came to him secondly, which he should have disdained. But he couldn't control his heart. She was supposed to be his wife. It's just that he was young and ignorant, and he was deceived by a sanctimonious person. Now that he is lost, he is 5 or 6 years older than her, and he should understand her. On the eve of the scientific expedition, she came over looking awkward and cute. If my father hadn't been optimistic about you, someone like you would never have anything to do with me. You better go to high school, and Miss Ben may still consider this marriage at that time, otherwise there will be no door. He stared at her with his head down. Didn't Miss Song say before that she would not marry me even if she died? Song Yaoguang's face stiffened, and he was about to leave. But he stepped on a stone under his feet, and fell into his arms. Jihansheng hugged the woman for the first time, and it was the first time he knew that she was so soft. The tip of his heart was soft, and he held the person steady, lowered his head to her ear. Then just say that. Song Yaoguang blushed completely, broke away from him, and ran away. Only later, on the way to the examination institute for the third door, he was interrupted by someone sent by the Chen family, completely cutting off the road to the imperial examination, and having no future. Song Yaoguang also decisively broke off the marriage with H. Seemed to complain that he was not up to the task, and the belongings were smashed by her. She looked determined, as if the warmth of that day had never been there. Hands hurt, heart hurts. He looked numb and packed up his baggage and left that night. Hate. He felt that he did not hate it. His family was in the middle of the road, he was born in a poor family, and his hand was broken at that time, and his future was uncertain, so it was reasonable for her not to marry him. Jihan's voice is just complaining. If Song Yaoguang has never been ruthless to him, it will be fine. But they also briefly exchanged hearts. If she just looked at his future, she didn't have to act like a shy daughter in front of him. Song Yaoguang. This most ruthless woman in the world messed with his heart, and then abandoned him mercilessly. A year later, he heard that she and Pei Wangzi were engaged. It turned out that after going around in circles, she still liked Pei Wangzi. After the power was in his hands, he thought countless times. Did Song Yaoguang ever regret abandoning him? Now he has a future more than anyone she is optimistic about. Song Shongshu angered the late emperor, and all the men of this branch were exiled. Pei Wangzi also broke off her marriage. Her beautiful yard and gorgeous clothes and jewelry were all snatched away by her cousin. From now on, I will live under the fence and live a life of being looked down upon. Ji Hansheng should be happy. But when he saw Song Yaoguang being sent to his house by his uncle, he still felt unspeakable anger in his heart. Song Jiaran has already practiced human work to this point, sending it back and forth like a plaything. He left people behind. Now, Song Yaoguang is by his side. Staring at Song Yaoguang's quiet sleeping face, Ji Hansheng's heart surged violently. Why? After abandoning him, she could still sleep peacefully next to him. How confident is he that he won't hurt her? Thinking of the kiss in the daytime, Ji Hansheng leaned down without hesitation, sucking and licking fiercely and greedily. Song Yaoguang seemed to have a feeling in his sleep, and snorted twice with extreme dissatisfaction. Ji Hansheng seemed to have not heard it, like a fierce vicious dog, gnawing on her lips. She had better be woken up by him. Wake up and see how he made her pay the price. 7. When conscious, the lip flap tingles. When I opened my eyes, there were more words in front of me than ever. Who dares to see the appearance of the villain yesterday? This is all broken. The villain is really a high-energy person. He hugged Bai Yueguang and kissed him all night, and he could go to work in high spirits in the morning. Bai Yueguang can really sleep, he just didn't wake up after being kissed all night. What? One night, I looked in the mirror and caught a glimpse of my red and swollen lips, and absurdity welled up in my heart. Ji Hansheng is crazy. After digesting for a while, I got up to freshen up and eat. Suddenly I heard a female voice outside. I haven't been here for a long time, there is no one in Erlang's mansion who runs the backyard, and I don't know what kind of situation he is in the house now. The door was pushed open and someone walked in. The maid was a little panicked and whispered to me, "Girl, it's my sister-in-law." I stood still, scooped up a bowl of porridge and drank it carefully. The sister-in-law lifted the curtain and went inside, saw me sitting at the table, and was stunned for a moment. You? Why are you here? I slowly lifted my eyelids and didn't say a word. Lu looked at me, the fine cold sweat on his forehead gradually oozed out, and he turned around and left. It looks like hell alive. Stop acting, this sister-in-law runs directly into the villain's room. When will the villain find out that she has bad intentions? It is estimated that she will not be able to find it before she is betrayed. This sister-in-law thought about seducing her brother-in-law for a day, but she couldn't seduce her because of love and hatred, and she took refuge in political opponents to frame her. She also negotiated with the Chen family before, and she didn't want the villain to fly up to the branches, and gave the roadmap to Beijing to catch up with the exam to his enemies, and the big guy almost didn't enter Beijing alive. I made a move. Knowing Lu's was during Ji Hansheng's scientific expedition. He went to take the exam, and I went out to Linlong Pavilion to hang out, thinking about giving some rare gifts when he finished the exam. I was choosing, and suddenly I heard someone calling me. But Miss Song. I turned my head to look, and Lu appeared in front of me. You? I am the widow of the Ji family, and Ji Hansheng is the second son in the family. It turned out to be Ji Hansheng's sister-in-law. I raised my smile and started talking to her. In Lu's words, I chose the gift I wanted to give in the past. After leaving the Linlong Pavilion, I thanked Lu. But she waved her hand with a smile on her face. No need to say thank you, we will all be a family from now on. She sighed, when you and Erlang get married, Dalong will have a descendant, and I will have hope for the rest of my life. I was stunned, What do you mean? Why did I marry Ji Hanseng, and Dalong had a queen? Didn't Erlang tell you? She looked surprised. Before my mother died, she wanted Erlang to have 2 rooms, and Erlang agreed, saying that he would only wait for you to enter the door, and promised to leave a queen for the big house. Unspeakable nausea surged into my throat, and I vomited when I went back. I had a high fever that night, and I was sick for many days before I could barely wake up. After waking up, just in time for Ji Hanseng to return home, I immediately rushed out to break off the engagement and smashed the betrothal token in his face. Ji Hanseng also quickly left the Song family. The people around me saw that I was so emotional that they didn't dare to mention Ji Hanseng in front of me. Later, I learned that he hadn't finished the exam at all. On the way to take the last exam, he was broken by someone. It's just that Ji Hanseng had disappeared at that time, and he couldn't find it. Now that I think about it, all of this is too coincidental. Especially the emergence of the Liu family. The Ji family settled in Hongnong, and went to the capital alone to take the exam. But his widowed sister-in-law, when he was on his scientific expedition, came to the capital alone, happened to meet me, and happened to say these words in front of me. I dreamed of the past last night, and when I woke up, I was thinking about it carefully. If Ji Hanseng and his widow really have something to do, why do those words talk about what will happen later, but don't mention Liu? Now these words mention her. Said she was a spy. So what she said at the beginning, is it true or false? At that time, Ji Hanseng was too popular in the township examination, overshadowing Chen Feng, the unicorn son of the Hongnong Chen family who had been building momentum for many years. Later, the two debated the scriptures and even pressed Chen Feng to the ground and rubbed it. Since then, Ji Hanseng and Chen Feng's beam have been formed. It was originally just a conflict between Ji Hanseng and Chen Feng. Later, Chen Feng failed to find fault with Ji Hanseng, but suffered the consequences and died unexpectedly. The Chen family counted all the things on Ji Hanseng's head, and repeatedly blocked his future. Now that I think about it, she appeared in front of me so coincidentally to sow discord, and Ji Hanseng was interrupted at the right time, and fell into a situation of isolation and helplessness. Would I have been, back then, misunderstood him? 8. Su was socializing, and when Ji Hanseng came back at night, the smell of alcohol made me call me to serve and take a bath. In the heat, he opened his arms towards me. Come here. I hesitated, stepped on the slightly damp ground barefoot, and went over to unfasten his belt. The robe and underwear fell off layer by layer, leaving only a thin white underwear. The beautiful and firm waist and abdominal muscles are outlined, and the ups and downs with his breathing. Ji Hanseng drank the wine, the corners of his eyes were red, and his eyes were a little blurry, and his ink hair like a waterfall was draped on his shoulders, like a seductive demon. Continue. Taking a deep breath, I peeled off the last layer of his underwear. What caught his eye was a long scar on his chest, spreading from his chest to his ribs. I heard that in the years when he was a staff member in the 5th Prince's mansion, he had blocked a fatal knife for the 5th Prince, and since then he has been reused. In a daze, Ji Hanseng turned around and got out of the bath. There were also a few knife marks on his back. If he had successfully conducted the scientific examination back then, with his talent, he should have been born in a noble Hanlin academy, and would not have to suffer so much. The Chen family is just that. If I had been more concerned about him back then, with the escort of the Song family at that time, the Chen family would not be able to stop his future. Growing up, I have never regretted anything. Even if I was in trouble to this point, Ji Hanseng made a comeback, and because of what Liu said at the beginning, I never regretted breaking off the engagement. Now my heart is filled with some regret. I should have asked him. Instead of trusting others, I broke off the engagement with him on such an impulsive move. Feeling fooled by him, he humiliated him with the most poisonous words he could say in his life. Guilt welled up and I squatted by the bathtub, picked up a handkerchief, and gently scrubbed his body. Ji Hanseng leaned against the edge of the bath, closed his eyes and relaxed. Rao carefully lightened his strength, his lips still snorted from time to time, and his body was slightly red. When I was wondering if I was trying too hard, I saw those words. Just make a fuss like this, what is it called? I don't see it. This man was touched twice by his wife and died. Then what is already standing underwater? It's too. The bath was hot and made my face a little red. When the hand holding the silk cloth reached out to his chest, his wrist was grasped. Ji Hanseng opened his eyes at some point, and his voice was a little hoarse. I don't need you, go down. It's hard to guess what people are going to do. Brother can't help but do handicraft work. Handicraft. What is the meaning? Just as I was thinking about it, my feet slipped and I fell straight into the bath. Water poured into my nose from all directions, and I fluttered twice, and then someone lifted me up with my back collar. Ahem. Getting out of the suffocating environment, I coughed hard and felt better. When he opened his eyes, Ji Hanseng's chest was close at hand, and the corners of his mouth were pouting with a familiar sneer. Want to seduce me? I quickly waved my hand. No, I was accidentally. Before he finished speaking, his lips were blocked by his bowed head. That night was probably for Ji Hanseng to practice some fame. He sucked, tossing and sucking, and his movements were very skillful. The wine between my lips did not dissipate, as if I was also drunk, and my whole body was shrouded in his breath, and the numbness spread from my lips and tongue all the way to the tip of my heart. The hand that had been refusing gradually let go, and I was soft in his arms. After kissing for a while, I opened my lips and gasped while he was leaving. Ji Hanseng lowered his head, and was bumping into it, as if he had opened the door to a new world, and he reached in forcefully without leaving a gap. I was a little dizzy, so I could only climb on his shoulders and hummed weakly. When they parted again, his eyes were filled with scarlet like a beast. Song Yao Guang, remember, you started first. 9. It turns out that doing handicraft work means this. Being soaked in the bath, my wrists were sore, and I couldn't help but complain in a low voice. How long will it take? Ji Han muffled, there is a faster way. As soon as he finished speaking, he stretched out his hand and carried me out of the bath. At this interval, I hesitated to speak. At the beginning. Before the rest of the words could be spoken, his lips were blocked again. I frowned slightly, raised my hand and pushed him away. It at the beginning. Ji Hanseng raised his hand and choked my chin, his eyes gloomy. You have to mention the previous incident at this time. What? Deliberately disgusting me, and not wanting me to touch you. Disgusting. The words of explanation came down from my lips and I looked away. Since it's so disgusting, stay away from me. Ji Hanseng heard the words and looked at me for 2 seconds. I don't. Then he leaned over and bit it down. Only this time, there was a little more roughness between the actions. My chest hurt, I gasped, and tears welled up in my eyes. Ji Hanseng, are you a dog? You dare to scold? Ji Hanseng looked up angrily, just in time to see a tear slipping out of the corner of my eye. He was stunned for a while, got up and put on his robe and left. The bathroom was empty, the cold wind blew, and I hurriedly put on my clothes. Those words reappeared. What just happened? The screen has been black for a long time, and it won't be this or that. Wrapped by Yue Guang's neck is full of hickeys, and his eyes and nose are red. Contrary. When I got back to the house, I looked at the person in the mirror, sniffed, and wanted to cry. I miss my father and brother so much. Originally, I was hoping that if I followed Ji Hanseng and coaxed him to be happy, maybe I could beg him and find a way to get my father and brother back. It is good not to expect officials to be reinstated and not to serve in penal colonies. Now it seems that there is little hope. 10. Ji Hanseng didn't want to pay attention to me anymore, and didn't even mention letting me serve him in the past. It seems to be back to the state of being sent to the Ji family when it was just sent. It was Lucier who came to the door again, saying that he wanted to tell Ji Hanseng about a marriage. Ji Hanxing's status is now rising, and even Lu, his sister-in-law, is often invited to attend the banquets of nobles in the capital and ask her to help. Lu Shi made a favor and sent the portrait to the Ji family. Ji Hanxing accepted. When the maid talked to me, my heart was slightly sour. Yes, Ji Hanxing can't let me go anymore, and it doesn't prevent him from marrying another woman. I am the daughter of a sinner, and it is impossible for him to marry me. I was angry, and I didn't come in front of Ji Hanxing. Until one day in the garden, a maid with a fresh face bumped into me and stuffed a note into my hand. When I returned to the room, I saw that it was Pei Wang's handwriting. He said that he learned that I was trapped here with Ji Hanxing now and would help take me out. I was a little hesitant. I want to go to the great wilderness, the penal colony of my father and brother. Ji Hanxing wants to marry. Even if I get back together with him, I can only be a concubine. And the Song family is no longer the Song family I am familiar with. It would be better to ask Pei Wangza to help me send me to the great wilderness, at least to reunite with my family. Determined to do so, I wrote a reply. Pei Wangza is a person I trust. At the beginning, the emperor was seriously ill, and the princes below were all ready to move, and the trend of forming parties in the DPRK and China for personal gain was quite heavy. My father and the Pei family were both neutrals, and in order to preserve their family in this atmosphere, they declared their marriage. But his father was a Shangshu, and he didn't want to take refuge, so someone wanted him to vacate his seat. The late emperor was furious and exiled his father and brother to the wilderness. At that time, Pei Wangza saw that I was isolated and helpless, and really planned to marry me and fulfill this marriage. However, the Pei family strongly opposed it, and his parents even forced him to think more about the Pei family. Pei Wangza didn't agree, so his mother begged me. I didn't want to drag others down, so the marriage was over. Pei Wangza felt ashamed in his heart, and his father and brothers were exiled all the way, and they all had a lot of points. He is a good person, and he is the only one who can help me now. The letter asked the maid to send it out, and soon received a reply. A plan quietly took shape. 11. On the night of Ji Hanxing's birthday, I made a bowl of longevity noodles and sent it over. His birthday was not announced, but the gifts were still piled up in the yard. There are even women for him. I laughed lightly in my heart, and I entered the study. Ji Hanxing's thin-side face was a little cold under the light of the candlelight. Very indifferent tone, "What's the matter?" "It's still there, my wife is going to run away, too lazy to spray." Run, Bai Yueguang doesn't cooperate even if he wants to coax him, and he can't blame others for finding his ex-husband. It can only be said that it is a lonely life type. I hesitated for a long time and said, "Today is your birthday. I made a bowl of longevity noodles." Ji Hanxing's eyes froze on the tray in my hand for a long time, and his voice was slightly hoarse. "Come here." I stumbled forward, was pulled into my arms by Ji Hanxing, and sat on his lap. "Hey me." A natural tone. "It will break." I shook my head, the face of longevity cannot be broken. Ji Hanxing paused slightly and let me go. He picked up his chopsticks and ate them himself. A bowl of noodles quickly bottomed out. I poured him a glass of wine and said softly, "Happy birthday, Ji Hanxing." Ji Hanxing took it casually and drank it all in one gulp. His eyes were a little misty under the flickering candlelight. "Do you have any gifts?" I paused, tiptoed lightly, and kissed his Adam's apple. Ji Hanxing raised his head and closed his eyes, and there was a soft snort in his throat. There seemed to be something around his waist, and he pressed it up stiffly. "You said it yourself." He stroked the back of my head with his big hand, his eyes confused. "This time, I won't let you go easily." Those words were wrong. Ji Hanxing is not coaxing or stopping, he will coax. The low and bewitching voice was in my ears over and over again. "Be good, relax. Yes, don't be afraid." It wasn't until he was exhausted that he hugged me and fell asleep. Of course, it may also be that the effect of the medicine has increased. I added a reaction to the noodles and wine. Enduring the pain, I got up and put the letter I had written early in the morning on the bedside. It explained the reason for the break-off. Even if I want to leave, I can't let Lou, a spy, be by his side. So be it. In the future, he will marry a wife in the capital, and I will accompany my father and brother in the wilderness. I'm afraid I won't have a chance to see you again in the future. When I returned to the house, I changed into a maid's costume and blew smoke on the people guarding outside. Soon met up with the people arranged by Pei Wangza, and left through the corner gate. After getting into the carriage smoothly, my hanging heart was relieved. It's so exciting when the run is in progress. When the villain wakes up, he sees that his wife is gone, and he is going to turn black again, so he rubs his hands. Bet on whether the villain will catch the running white moonlight. I guess not. I guess we'll add one. Looking at the barrage, I clenched my hand a little nervously. I will never be a concubine to others. Ji Hansheng is about to marry a wife, and he got what he wanted. I'm gone, and he shouldn't be doing anything. 12. The carriage went all the way out of the city, and Pei Wangza and I met in the woods outside the city. He wore a crescent white robe, and under the moonlight, he looked even more warm as jade. Seeing me, he frowned slightly. He didn't do anything to you, did he? I shook my head. Please help me, and I will continue to trouble you and send me to the great wilderness. Great wilderness? Pei Wangza lowered his eyes and repeated. Do you know where the great wilderness is? Where did you go to the barren land of exile? How to protect yourself? But my father and brother are there, and if I don't go there, where else can I go? Stay. Pei Wangza's tone was comforting. I will find a way to rehabilitate Lord Song and Brother Song, and let them return to Beijing. I have a house outside the city, you can stay there for a while and wait for their news. My mind was a little confused, and I had a sense that something was wrong. Slowly becoming your outer room, right, doesn't it mean that Pei also loves white moonlight? In the original book, after Bai Yueguang committed suicide and martyrdom, the villain and Pei Wangza got on the bar, and they fought back and forth in the court for more than 10 years. It seems that white moonlight will only turn into white moonlight when it dies, and no one cherishes it when it is alive. I'll still go to the great wilderness. Shake the light. Pei Wangza's voice was gentle, but his tone was not to be spoken. Stay, I will protect you. He doesn't plan to send me to the wilderness. I took a step back. Forget it, I don't need your help, I'll go by myself. As soon as I finished speaking, my head was a little dizzy, and my body was a little unsteady. Pei Wangza took a step forward and took me into his arms. Shake the light. His tone was bewitching. Didn't you like me the most before? Isn't it okay to stay with me? You drugged me. Pei Wangza responded softly, smiling and pinning my hair behind my ear. Don't worry, I will definitely treat you well, and I will never let Ji Hansheng do anything to you. As he spoke, he picked me up and was about to take me to the carriage. As soon as he turned around, the smile on his face faded. The forest, which was still empty just now, was crowded with people in an instant. All of a sudden, the fire soared into the sky, reflecting the face of the leader. Ji Hansheng's phoenix eyes narrowed lightly, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Young Master Pei, where are you going to take my people? Oh, roar. The villain still chased after him, fortunately. Is it so fast? Was he pretending to be unconscious from the beginning? Have you forgotten the villain's style? What can he hide from him and his family? Hearing a familiar voice, I shouted with the only strength I had left. Ji Hansheng. His mouth was covered by Pei Wangza, and he smiled lightly. Why do you need to do this, Master Ji? You also know that Yao Guang and I are in love, otherwise you won't take the initiative to come out to find me, so don't beat the mandarin ducks. Ji Hansheng lowered his head and smiled, and then took out a ledger from his arms. Do you know what this is? Pei Wang's face changed suddenly. Ji Hansheng's expression was contemptuous, and his tone was cold. I think you are impatient, you haven't wiped your butt clean yet, and you dare to provoke me. The Pei family, a century-old family, would be a pity if it was buried in your generation. What do you think? Young Master Pei. 13. The carriage was shaking, and I looked at the side face of the man next to me who closed his eyes to recuperate, and my heart was a little beating. Ji Hansheng held the handle of the Pei family in his hand, and Pei Wangza could only let him go, and also gave the antidote to soft tendon powder. Ji Hansheng appeared at the right time, which showed that he was not stunned at all. Silent all the way, I hesitated to speak. Ji Hansheng suddenly opened his eyes were a little cold. There is nothing between me and Pei Wangza. I just want to ask him to help send me to the wilderness. Under his burning gaze, my voice became lower and lower. I didn't expect that he was this kind of person. Big, wild. Ji Hansheng said strangely, it seems that you are very uncomfortable by my side, and you would rather go to the great wilderness to mine than stay. I lowered my eyes, I just don't want to be a concubine. I don't want to die. Even if I am not as good as I used to be, it is not something that others can easily humiliate. Even Ji Hansheng can't do it. Ji Hansheng heard it, his jaw tightened, as if he was trying his best to endure his anger. When did I say that I wanted you to be a concubine? That is, I don't even have to be a concubine. I felt even more depressed. Didn't you accept the portrait of the woman next to you and plan to get married? Ji Hansheng sneered, and the anger he was holding back could no longer be suppressed. Song Yawang, are you a fool? When did I say I wanted to get married? When did you say that you wanted to take care of the big house? You will always only listen to others and will not ask me, how bad am I in your eyes? Or is it that I just did what you wanted, so that you could naturally find an excuse to leave me and go to Pei Wangza? I was slightly stunned, looking at the person in front of me with his jaw tightened, and a pair of beautiful phoenix eyes turned red. You. Crying. Awesome, you can actually see the traitor and villain crying, and it has to be white moonlight. Men's tears, women's stimulants, sizzling. By Yueguang, don't coax, let him cry. Seeing him cry, I was a little overwhelmed. I don't think so. Pei Wangza and I declared our marriage because of the special situation in Beijing, and there was no betrothal notice. I have nothing to do with him for a long time, what I like is you. It was all my fault for breaking off the engagement before, because I was too gullible to believe the words of others. But this time, you usually have a cold face to me, and you accepted the portrait again. Ji Hansheng tilted his head to look to the other side. Lu handed it over to the housekeeper while I was away, and I returned it when I came back. I see. When it reached my ears, it became a portrait of the lady he received introduced by Lu, ready to marry. It took a long time for me to speak. I don't ask you because I'm afraid of humiliating myself. I like you, of course. I don't want you to marry someone else. I'm afraid you will say that I take myself too seriously. Ji Hansheng. I said softly, I have already received retribution, and I don't want to humiliate myself anymore. When I saw those words, I tried to please and obey Ji Hansheng, trying to get back together with him. It turns out that Ji Hansheng really can't let me go, but he also hates me. Just like those words say, Bai Yueguang will be Bai Yueguang when he dies, and no one will cherish it when he is alive. Maybe after I really die, my debt here in Ji Hansheng will be written off. But I'm still alive. He loves and hates, and his erratic attitude is elusive. But it's true that I was sorry for him at the beginning. I have nothing left, and it shouldn't be meaningful for you to take revenge. Thinking of something, my eyes lit up. Why don't you send me to the wilderness? I'll go mining, all day long, wind and rain, so that you will be happier in your heart, isn't it? Song Yawang. His chin was pinched, and Ji Hansheng approached, his eyes deepened. You want to start chaos and give up, don't you? Take away my body, do you want to be responsible? Ha ha ha, laughed me to death, the villain wants to be a name. How can this sadomasochism create a sense of joy? I'll give you two choices. Ji Hansheng couldn't help but say, first, I will send you to the great wilderness to mine. Second, marry me, I will ensure that your father and brother come back from the great wilderness, and maybe they can be reinstated. How do you choose? Get married. The official is reinstated. After a slight hesitation, the force on his chin tightened again. Do you still want to think about this? How much do you hate me? I quickly shook my head, raised my hand to hug him, and said in a muffled voice, then you are not allowed to say nasty things to me like before. I'll take it seriously. Ji Hansheng's expression paused slightly, and he raised his hand to stroke the back of my head. Never again. Mom, finally reconciled, after the villain has a wife, he shouldn't be used to our male and female protagonists breaking them up. Fortunately, Bai Yueguang is not dead, and the male and female protagonists of this article can achieve the ending of he. Dare to breathe lightly, my body was light, Ji Hansheng hugged me to my lap, and his phoenix eyes narrowed slightly. Also, you just said that you like me. Prove it to me. I was a little confused, but it still hurts. Ji Hansheng lowered his eyes. Do you dare to run around with wild men in pain? I buried my head in his neck with a guilty conscience. Tomorrow, let's talk about it tomorrow. End of text. Extra. The fact that Lu was a spy was found out, and was soon dealt with mercilessly by Ji Hansheng. She said that the reason she colluded with the Chen family was because she was afraid that he would climb too high, regardless of her widowed sister-in-law. He also burst into tears, begging Ji Hansheng to save the face of his mother-in-law and eldest brother and save her life. Ji Hansheng sent her directly to meet her mother-in-law and eldest brother. After getting married, I learned that his right hand now hurts when the weather is a little colder. I was so distressed that I went to a famous doctor for massage. Ji Hansheng always said that it would be good to kiss it more. After getting married, Ji Hansheng really didn't say anything ugly to me again, and his face became softer day by day, and he lost his former ferocity. I have also regained a bit of my former temperament. The days passed like this. Half a year after marrying Ji Hansheng, it was found that his father was framed by his uncle, and he returned to the capital from the great wilderness, and the official was reinstated. My uncle's family was exiled for deceiving the king. When the news of my father and brother's return to Beijing came, I went to pay my respects to my mother, who died early. Finally, we can reunite as a family. However, Ji Hansheng became wrong. He was originally very clingy, and he asked for it very often. Recently, it has suddenly become cold. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. On the day he married Ji Hansheng, those words disappeared. I couldn't help but wonder, is he tired of me? Or regret marrying me? It wasn't until he was drunk that he confided in him. He was lying on his back on the bed, his ink hair disheveled, and his expression was a little fragile. Am I useless to you? What do you mean? I held his hand. What's useless? Master Song returns to Beijing, you don't need to rely on me, I'm useless, don't you need me anymore? As he said, his eyes turned red again. How could it be? I gently touched his face and suddenly understood his worries and losses. At the beginning, he asked me to choose. Afraid that I would not agree, I also attached the condition of helping my father and brother return to Beijing. Does he think that I married him for this false and deceitful sake? I kissed him on the side of his face. Fool, I married you because I love you. Even if you don't say that you want to help my father and brother return to Beijing, if you want to marry me, I am willing. His voice was slightly hoarse, prove it to me. I unbuttoned his robe and kissed him on the neck. Then this time, I'm on top. Ji Hansheng closed his eyes and said in a coquettish tone, it's cold today, and my hands hurt a little. Then I'll kiss it more.